Welcome to the Youth Voice, a podcast giving young people a voice in politics across the island of Ireland. Today we're joined by TD for Dublin Fingal, Gary Gannon of the Social Democrats. So welcome to the show.
Thanks, Dermot. Thanks a million.
So I suppose we'll get straight in. The Social Democrats are a fairly new party. They're quite young compared to the others, but they've kind of started doing really well in the elections. So what does your party actually stand for? What do you believe in? What separates you from, say, Sinn Féin or Labour or PPP?
So the Social Democrats founded in 2016. So we're about just over 5 years old now. And I suppose what we believe on, we put what we believe in very much on the tin in terms of what we offer. We believe in social democracy and social democratic practices and things that if they were implemented either here in the Republic or hopefully across the island of Ireland, that they would have better outcomes for people. There's nothing revolutionary about our politics. They're simple, pay your taxes, get your services style politics. We look at international best practice. We look at evidence-based policies. A lot of us in the party have people who have been kind of experienced politics. A lot of us were politicized either through the period of austerity or through the various referendums we've had down here in terms of marriage equality or the referendum to repeal the Eighth Amendment and give abortion rights in this country. So a lot of our members and our TDs were politicized through those experiences. So we like to think that we live our politics. We don't advocate any sort of aggressive, oppositional style politics. We very much stand over our policies and try to clearly outline why we believe in them. And for us, social democracy is a vehicle to a better form of a republic.
Absolutely. I think uh, with the kind of being a new party, I suppose a lot of people are kind of wondering, is it the same as Labour? And, which I think there's obviously very clear similarities, both being social democratic parties. But I suppose a lot of people see you as not being tainted yet by the kind of selling out that a lot of people have, I suppose, seen. But if, say, after the next election, a lot of people are predicting, Sinn Féin, Fianna Fáil, Social Democrat coalition. Is there anyone in specifically that you'd like to go into government with?
I don't think we look. It's a good, and it's an important question, and it's one that we will be asked 1,000 times and should be over the course of the coming years. But our role is to build the social democrats, and our role is to stay true to our values and to our politics. So, I mean, the very first thing that we should be doing and are doing at the moment is concentrating on building our party and building the social democrats and outlining to people, be it outdoors or on social media now more so because we can't be outdoors, the reason why our party deserves their vote over another. I should say we absolutely do want to be a party of government. I mean, we want to be people who develop budgets and implement their policies. When it comes to the idea of forming a coalition, I mean, it will be based on values. It will be based on who we can find common ground with, and that will be the most important consideration we make. I look, the Social Democrats have built their own culture. I mean, yes, very much so. There are similarities between ourselves and Labour and other parties at the centre left, such as the Green Party, when it comes to politics. But culture is different, you know. There is a kind of a there is something welcoming about joining a party that is only 5 years old. You know, in their branch structures or what other people might refer to as the commons, you know, there isn't people who've been there for 30 years and kind of have a lock on membership. And people, when they get involved in their party, can feel very welcome. And getting involved at a ground level means in a part that new party means that you can very quickly be quite influential within the party. So we're new, that brings advantages. Don't have we don't have the traditional kind of oppositional for opposition's sake alone style to politics, which means that I'm not going to stand here and tell you that Fianna Fáil are inherently evil or the Labour Party sold out, although I did get involved in politics because I was um, dissatisfied to the point of angry at decisions taken during Labour's period in government and felt that we could do a better job. And that, suppose, is up to us to prove. But that's our style of politics. We just want to stand over. We want to stand over our own. policies and values. We don't necessarily want to just be throwing stones at others.
Absolutely. I suppose as well here at the Youth Voice, we're obviously very young people orientated. So your party has been very good for getting young people involved. You've, I suppose, combined the political experience of some of the older elements of the party, but also really brought in a very young, fresh membership. A lot of people who wouldn't really have been involved in politics beforehand, but are now really, really invested. So why is it that the Social Democrats have been so attractive to young people, especially now, whenever there are so many different parties? Why have you been the standout one for young people?
I think there's a level of authenticity from the TDs in the Social Democrats because we don't come from a traditional political background in a lot of spaces. I think we bring a bit of an authenticity with us that people actually find compelling and can relate to. And I really hope we keep that. I really hope we keep that because I think that's been an attractive feature of why so many people have got involved in the Social Democrats because they feel like they can relate to us. You know, of the 6 TDs we have, I mean, our long-term TDs, but the 4 new TDs, we're very different backgrounds. We're very different in terms of we sound very different, actually, even, and we come from different parts of the country. And I think people have been able to point to us and say across the board, there's whether it's myself or it's Holly or um, Jen or Keen, there's something about us that they can find relatable. But then we've also, it wasn't that we brought young people into the party. We didn't go our way like the Pied Piper and be like, we're going to lead a lot of young people here. We just created a welcome environment where people felt welcome to get involved. And I hope we continue that. I believe we can improve on it. I think we have to be consistently self-challenging and self-reflective in terms of the fact that we brought so many new people into politics. Well, just bringing them into the party is not really good enough. It's ensuring that their voices feel heard and they feel respected is the most important thing for me. It's how do we create a conveyor belt of where the young people who join now can become the more experienced members and create another conveyor belt for the young people that come after them. That's the question I'm really interested in. It's the fact that people join, I mean, in particular, young people join their party is great. But what would be really, really great would be seeing them turn into some older members and then become a mentor to other people coming through, because that will demonstrate that we'll have sustained ourselves and being successful. I think, look, it's it's great that people have joined us. I want to make sure we keep them.
Absolutely. I suppose as well, I think at your recent conference, you passed a motion to organise in the north of Ireland. So what is the plan? Like, is it? I know it's very early days yet. I'm asking for deep party strategy, but is it good? You know, the possibility of running in the north or anything like that, or is it
So
more so just having a presence?
no, so emotions happen at conference, and that was only a couple of weeks ago. That's exactly what it is. It's emotion, and then there's an obligation on the party to start developing a plan around the fact that our members have expressed an interest in building in the north of Ireland. For me, as a social democrat, I just think there's an inspirational figure there who we should all be taking example from. I mean, John Hume, as a social democrat, is somebody we should all be. As somebody who identifies as a social democrat, I think John Hume's example, especially when it comes to the north and some of the challenges that this island is going to experience and has experienced and may continue to experience, and actually we're even seeing some examples of it this weekend. And I think John Hume's example is something that every social democrat should be ready to take up the mantle of. So I want us to have a presence in the north. I don't want us to just stamp in there and say, look, we're here, we've arrived now, because actually I think, look, there's experiences there that, I mean, I can be conscious of as somebody who grew up in Dublin, but I need to tread carefully as we go up and as we kind of emerge into other spheres. Like, I believe in a 32 county republic, but under the principles of consent as outlined in the Good Friday Agreement. That is my position. And as somebody holds that position, I want to be organising all over the island. But I also know in order to do that, I need to be able to listen and to learn and to tread carefully. So I do think we'll be organising there. I don't know exactly how yet. I think that might, for me, I think there's definitely a space to collaborate with other social democrats, be they in the social democrats or not, maybe as a first protocol, build alliances with other centre left parties throughout the island would be something that I'd have more of an interest in than simply going in there and saying, vote for me, we're great, because I actually think the people of the North deserve better than that. So I'd be looking to collaborate, build alliances with other social democrats, be they in the SDLP. I mean, Sinn Féin have their own things going on, or be they in the Alliance Party. I'd be more looking forward to building relationships first and then seeing where the space is for us to organise either electorally or just even supporting other social democrats.
Absolutely. And I suppose drawing on that kind of idea of alliances, Labour in the South have, the SOCDEM membership have kind of said no, but Labour seem to be really kind of jumping at the idea of a merger with the Social Democrats. And I think there seems to be a very kind of Labour wanted, SOCDEMs are like, what's the actual feeling there, amongst, I suppose, the TDs about a merger or an alliance or something like that between the kind of two very similar parties?
We're similar, but there are differences too in terms of culture, and there's a reason why the Social Democrats exist in their own way. I would have no interest in a merger with the Labour Party. I would absolutely love the idea of collaborating, working more on policy. I think there's some fantastic public representatives in the Labour Party. The idea of a merger doesn't make really much sense to me. We have different approaches to politics, like our branch styles and the type of people who've got involved. Like, I don't think if I was a member of the Labour Party, I don't think I would have been able to become a TD as quickly as I did. And I think that would be the same for a lot of people. They've got different cultures, the styles and the ways of operating. But I do think if we are talking about more on a 32 county basis, I definitely think there's room for exploration of a more unified centre left. And whether that looks like a more unified party of the centre left, it's a conversation I'm open to. I don't think it makes sense just merging the Social Democrats and the Labour, because I don't know why we do it. But if we were to have the idea of building an NHS, for example, across the island of Ireland, if we were looking to improve public services, if we were taking John Hume's example that you can't eat a flag, so when we're having conversations about unification of the island, what sort of bread and butter issues should we be advancing, and most importantly, how should we be trying to preserve and enhance the peace and deliver on the promises of the Good Friday Agreement, I'd be more interested in that conversation in terms of a unified centre left. That's not just Social Democrats, Labour, it would be Green, and it would be the progressive elements of SDLP who weren't willing to compromise on reproductive rights and marriage equality. And if those people as part of the alliance that wanted to be involved in that too, who believed themselves to be Social Democrats, I'd absolutely be willing to be involved in that conversation, because that just makes sense and that has a bigger vision than just a simple merger of us and Labour for what would seem like only to be for electoral reasons, and that would bore me.
Yeah, I suppose as well, one thing that I want to actually touch on is with the kind of the left has seen quite a bit of a growth. We had seen in the last election quite a massive growth of Sinn Féin, quite a big growth of the Social Democrats. What is the future for the SOCDEMs? I know that's quite a broad question, but like if you could kind of if Roisin Shortall and Catherine Murphy ring you in the morning and say, Gary, we want to take over, where do you want to point the Social Democrats? What position? Like, where do you want to go?
Like, where do we want to go? I think politics just has to be about public service and public contribution. And if you do that well, you'll grow. And if you don't do that well, you won't. I don't really have like kind of I'd like to be running in every constituency in Ireland, running a candidate, somebody under the Social Democrats banner in every constituency where we should be running. I would like to do that, but I fundamentally just believe in public contribution and doing our job well. If it's just a strategy about building the party for building the party's sake, we're not going to be anything, to be honest with you. So my long-term strategy, insofar as I have it at the minute, is to be the best possible representative I can be for the people who elected me, because that's really only my job, and then also create a vision for a fairer and more just society, which if we can get ourselves into government, we seek to implement, and looking at the failed lessons of the past and seeing, making sure that we don't compromise on our values or beliefs. That doesn't mean we don't take hard decisions or we don't have compromises, but it's you don't compromise your values. So I don't have a massive laid out strategy for social the growth of the party. I have a laid out strategy for the growth of myself as somebody who has been elected to contribute.
I suppose the final thing I want to touch on, there has been a debate over whether it's the Soc Dems or the Soc Dems. So, you're a TD in the party. What's the official line?
I'd call it the sock dams myself, but I don't think how my accent is a marker for how people can pronounce a lot of words. So whatever you're having yourself, but for me, it's the sock dams.
Absolutely. Well, I think we're going to leave it there. So thank you very much for coming on.
No problem at all, my friend.
To everyone listening, thanks for listening. You can get in contact with us. You can either drop a comment in the YouTube, or you can get in contact at Youth Voice NI on Twitter, or at Youth Voice underscore NI on Instagram, or you can read our blog at www.youthvoiceni.com. So as always, thank you for listening, and we'll see you all next time.